What's going on, everyone? So the Brooklyn Nets keep being in talks for Jimmy Butler. And I don't get it. I really don't, right? Like, Brooklyn, they finally, when they should have probably done this years ago, but finally hit the reset button. And yes, Brooklyn has been surprisingly good. They've been better than what was advertised. This kind of felt like a year where they were just going to tank and rebuild. But they should still pick that direction, right? Like, if you add Jimmy Butler to this team, are they now a contender? No. Right? Could the plan be you get Jimmy Butler and then maybe you can trade for Giannis in the offseason or something like that, right? Like, possibly, but even then, right? Like, Jimmy Butler, his injury history has not been great. I mean, even Pat Riley's called him out on it. He's only getting older. I mean, how many more years left does he have? And then you're having to pay him max money. And look, I love Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is one of my favorite players to watch. I love his attitude. I love his personality. Playoff Jimmy is just another beast and another animal. But it doesn't make sense for a team like the Nets. Stay the course. You have, or you got pretty much all your picks back. You have an excellent draft this year. You could probably get a nice return for Cam Johnson. I don't think that you're going to get the multiple firsts and all that stuff like, they supposedly want, just because his injury history, he has like incentives and stuff. So you got to like trade out and send out like $27 million. New CBA is very restrictive, but I do think that there are teams that would be, the Lakers are a team that would probably give you a first for that. Like, get what you can for these guys. Dorian Finney-Smith, I don't see you getting a first. You've been trying to get first for years for Dorian Finney-Smith. I don't see a team giving you that. Maybe able to get a couple seconds, get 2-3 seconds, something like that. Just start stacking up assets. Go roll the dice for a Cooper Flag, Nolan Traore, any of these guys, right? Like, next thing you know, you're putting together a nice young core. You have a guy in Cam Thomas who he's going to be due a contract, but he's really looking like a guy that's starting to come into his own, step into his own, and maybe even kind of be that rising star for you. He's 23 years old, still a lot of growth, a lot of potential, a lot of upside. You have Ben Simmons in his contract, right? Like, you have a clear path, in my opinion. And going and getting Jimmy Butler on this roster, like say you take Ben Simmons and whatever else to go get Jimmy Butler, right? Like, is Dennis Schroeder, Cam Thomas, Cam Johnson, Jimmy Butler, and Nick Claxton, is that going to get you an NBA championship? Maybe, right? Maybe. I don't think so. Could they get to the conference finals, right? Like, we've seen Indiana, we saw Atlanta a couple years ago. Could they maybe get to the NBA final or the conference finals, the Eastern Conference Finals? Sure. Especially Jimmy Butler, like, he's there once a week, right? Like, the dude's in the conference finals, it feels like, regularly, right? Like, he's always in the conference finals. Or in the NBA finals. He's taken a Heat team that you could argue at worse than what I just described with the Nets to an NBA finals, right? Like, so I don't want to completely rule it out, but I don't think it's super likely, especially at his age. How many games is he going to play for you? Is he really worth the money and the financial investment? Right? And then what? Right? Like, so then you don't win anything. You missed out on all the potential for your future. You're selling off all these pieces and stuff, and it's just like, for what? Right? To now hit the reset button, and now, look, I love that the Brooklyn Nets are an organization that wants to win. Because there are a lot of organizations that could care less. There's a lot of organizations that, hey, as long as we're making money, we're good. Right? A lot of organizations that they're not interested in overpaying for guys doing whatever, or, kind of trying to find workarounds of the CBA to make things work. And then you have organizations that do, right? And the Nets are clearly one of those organizations that do. And, they've had their dysfunctions. They've had their messes. Joe Tsai, he's even talked about, like, I'd rather have a team that won 20 games, but, I'm proud of than, what I have back when Kyrie and KD is. But no one blames the Nets for doing that. Every team in the league would have taken Kyrie and KD, right? Like, they did what they were supposed to do. And the Nets were a KD toe on the line from potentially winning an NBA championship. Like, who knows what type of rewritten history that is if KD's just like, 6 inches back, right? Like, it would have been a different world, right? So no one blames them, but at some point, you need to realize that, like, yes, we want to win, but it's a process, right? Sometimes you need to be able to see the picture and really properly evaluate, okay, we need to start heading on the right track. Also, you're Brooklyn, right? Stars continuously bring up Brooklyn because of the market, right? Like, if you build it, they will come type thing, right? Like, if Cam Thomas emerges into this guy and, you land a Cooper Flag and you have Nick Claxton and you kind of just, carve out this nice young core that it's like, oh, wait a minute. If I go there, I might be able to win a championship, right? Maybe somebody like a Luka's like, man, me, Cam Thomas, right? Got Cooper Flag, Claxton. They have, whatever salary space to get me there, or, maybe they have to trade a couple pieces, but, we work out a sign and trade, right? Somebody like that, or Anthony Edwards is like, hey, I'd love to get out of, I ran my course with Minnesota in a couple years, and it's like, okay, like, man, I go to Brooklyn, me, Cooper Flag, Nick Claxton, whoever's on the roster, right? Like, you get my point, right? Like, there is a path to where if you build and go the rebuild route, like you should have probably 2 seasons ago, and you start selling all these guys to the highest bidder, and you start putting together the roster, and you start putting together the things that you need to put together, all of a sudden you may be able to start getting guys rather than like, oh, let's go get a star in Jimmy Butler who's, 3 years from being removed, and you don't have time, right? So it's like, okay, you get Jimmy Butler, and now what? Right? Like, the other stars that are available this offseason are like Kyrie. We saw how that went. James Harden. We saw how that went. So unless you're able to trade for Giannis too, okay, and then you trade for Giannis, and now you got like Giannis and Jimmy, like that's cool, but like how are you filling out the rest of the roster? Because you're trading everything to go get Jimmy and Giannis, right? So now it's like, okay, so now, yeah, you sold the farm to go get Jimmy Butler at the trade deadline and Giannis in the offseason. Now you're trying to scrap whatever you can together to just like kind of build a roster for the season. And then if you don't win that season, it's like, okay, well, now Giannis is 31, going to be on 32. And then Jimmy Butler, he's got like 1-2 more years left. So your window is just incredibly small, where if you stay the course and you start carving out a nice young roster, all of a sudden you look up and it's like, okay, we're the rising team. We're the team that's getting there. Why all these other teams are falling off, and you're getting different, a different iteration of Boston, and the Knicks have kind of phased out, and like the Nuggets aren't a thing anymore, and the Lakers don't exist anymore, and the Timberwolves, are a different iteration, and Dallas is a different iteration, and all these teams. OKC is probably still going to be a tough team, and then Spurs are probably still going to be a tough team, and then it's like, okay, well, it's us, the Spurs, and, OKC. And we only have to play one of them in the finals, right? Like, so I just think that that's the better course. I think that that's the way to go rather than going and getting Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler makes no sense right now. And then it's like, how else do you, like, so you're going to ruin your chances at getting a future piece just to go get Jimmy Butler and have him be on the roster and then be a first, maybe second round exit. I don't get it, right? Like, again, like if you can get Jimmy and Giannis, again, I don't know how that works, right? One, can Giannis even play with another star? But two, it's like, okay, like sure you're doing that. I just think you have such a small window. And then it's not like, okay, well, Jimmy's gone and Giannis just turned 30. No, at that point, he's 33, 34, and he already has an injury history. It's just, you can see this being a disaster. Like, you can see this being like a, oh, okay, this didn't really work out. And again, I guess, the Eastern Conference is so weak. There's really only 3-4 teams. if that you got to kind of go get through. And if you can build a good enough roster, you're gonna be a top 3 to 4 seed, right? Like, and it's like, okay, well, even like the Sixers, will Joel Embiid show up in the playoffs with Paul George? Like, what Paul George are you gonna get? Right? Like, the Sixers seem like a team that you feel like you could beat if you're like half decent. And then like, it's like, okay, so we really got to just get through like Boston, the Cavs, who are just cruising right now. And then like the Knicks. Okay, so let's say you're a top 4 team, depending on how things shape up. I'm not super sold on it. I don't know why Jimmy would want to go to the Nets, and I don't know why the Nets would want Jimmy. Right? Unless Jimmy's looking at it as like the Nets are the only team that'll give me a max. I'd rather have the money than win. But like if you're Jimmy, like why not go to like a Warriors team that supposedly is interested in you and go play with Steph and have a real chance to win it? I mean, look at how good the Warriors have been playing, right? Like, can you go there and they'll still have a ton of depth? And it's like, man, me and Steph, we might be able to actually do that thing, right? Because playoff Jimmy is a real thing. So I don't know, but. Anyway, as always, this is a discussion, and I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you think, stay away from Jimmy Butler? It makes no sense if you're the Nets. Do you think, no, you got to go get Jimmy Butler if you're the Nets? How do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are. I'd love to hear it either way, so let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot, so we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.